Welcome to the Junto Men's Podcast, where we take a deep dive into all things related to men. We explore how to go from good to great, from high performers, and also aim to provide a shining light if you're experiencing darkness in your life. Grab a pen and paper and enjoy the ride.
Working over at Avondale University, worked for 5 years. Vocationally, I trained as a minister, worked in England for 16 years, and I was an educational consultant, worked with schools. A background is from social work, actually. I was a residential social worker, working in children's homes, which was poignant, actually, having been on a care order from 14 to 18, and being in residential community home schools as a kid, because of my turbulent teenage years. So it's kind of framed a lot of the work that I do. For the past 5 years, I've been in consultancy around resilience and building resilient work cultures and people cultures, and just helping people think about their stories. Most of it really is just therapy for me, because I just feel like we're all in ongoing therapy, you know what I mean? If we're not, we bloody should be, you know what I mean? We're just all in ongoing therapy. So I wanted to share something with you about the art of resilience. He called it the art of resilience, so I'm gonna have to just go with the art of resilience. Today is the 22nd of June. Yesterday was the 21st of June. It would have been my mum's 98th birthday. She passed in 2020 from old age, passed quietly at 95 in her bed. She said, I only want to die in one way. I want to die without pain and in my sleep, and she did. She honestly did. I was able to leave Australia, get home, and literally in time, she was, a matter of fact, she was dying. And because my mum was ready to die she turned 90, she had me at 40, and the youngest of 10 children, 8 living, you know what I mean? They were Catholics, obviously good Catholics, you know what I mean? And, fruitful Catholics, you know what I mean? And my mum was ready to die she was 90. And I said, no, mum, let me turn 50, you turn 90, then you can die whenever you want. You know what I mean? You can die. But she lasted. As a matter of fact, she was dying, they said. And then one of my older sisters said, no, mum, you can't die yet. Eddie's coming. And they said she perked up, she smiled, she ate some food, and she just stayed alive. 6 more days. I got there, got by her bedside in the afternoon, spent the whole day, family, and, the pastoral side of me was able to pray for her and do all the things. And I said, all right, mum, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm gonna go home. I was planning on going and sleeping in the, my mum couldn't speak at the time. She just couldn't speak. She kind of looked at me like, no, I'll see you in the morning. I'm done. You know what I mean? And literally she passed in her sleep, I framed her because she was the one who first taught resilience and taught us the art of resilience. So she taught us the art of resilience by simply doing this. So everybody do this. She said, this is the way you come into life. This is the way you guys must be in life. You know what I mean? Not begging, but just people know exactly where you're coming from. So I said, what if they disrespect that? And she said, well, you put it behind, put one behind. And she said, you deal with them from there. And I said, and what if they disrespect that? She said, you put it behind and you deal with them from the space they allow you to deal with them. She said, but you as a person, you must always come back to here because that's the way you're wired. Always be you because that's the way you're wired. And she was the one at a very early age that helped me to frame the idea of resilience. And so we're going to talk a little bit by reflecting. And so what I want you to do is I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this hand. Every one of you, take one and take a pen. Take one, take a pen. I will borrow somebody my pen, but you know, people don't give back pens, so I'm not pulling into question and well integrity, but I'm just, you know.
Especially if it's a nice pen.
Do you need a pen, Eddie?
Especially if it's a nice pen. You get people into social conversations and the pen just goes back in your bag, and, you know. All of us live out of our stories. All of us, but constantly. And we live out of our stories in three places. We live out the stories that were, we live out the stories that are, and we live in actually out to the stories that are still to come, because we always live in expectation. We live in reflection, we live in the present, and we always live in expectation of the things that are ahead of us. But we never take a moment to pause. There's a lady called Ayanla Van Sant, and she says, we go from 1 year to the next, one job to the next, one marriage to the next, one relationship to the next, one disappointment to the next, without ever taking time to pause and reflecting on where we've been, so that we know how to be better in the next space. We know how to be better in the next space. So I developed this thing called the Me Right Now. And the Me Right Now is just a way of pausing. And you're gonna understand why it relates to resilience and the art of resilience. So I just want you to let's go from 2020. We're not gonna go all the way back into no one's youth, but just 2020. And I just wanna ask you how you're doing. We're 3 years into this new decade. And I wanna ask you, and I want you to reflect on what's been going on in the past 3 years. Just in the past 3 years. So in this first box, it says the things that define me. Over the past 3 years, what have been the things that have really defined who you are, who you've been, who you see yourself as? I want you to think about a few of them and just write them in that first box of the things that define me. And just over the past 3 years, you know, since we've come into this new decade, I don't want you to go back much further than that. I feel like the past 3 years have been full enough. They've been full enough, you know. What are some of the things that have defined you over the past 3 years? I want to discover the me right now. So what are some of the things that have defined you over the past 3 years? Then, while you're doing that, because there'll be more, I want you to think about what are some of the experiences, so starting that first box, the things that define.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the next box above it, what are some of the experiences that have shaped you? What are some of the experiences that have shaped you? The things that define, just say, no, this is me. This is who I am. This is who I've had to be. This is how I've had to shape myself. You looking for a pen?
No, I'm actually looking for another piece of paper because I want to rewrite it, but that's fine.
Made a mess of it already, have you?
Yeah, that's fine. I can deal with that.
Just take an arrow and point the arrow. Yes.
I love it. Arrow is done.
Yeah. What are some of the experiences that have shaped you over the past 3 years? Since 2020. Good, bad, and indifferent, high, low, and middle of the road. And then what are the things that move and motivate you? Despite it all, What are the things that move and motivate you? Sometimes despite it all and sometimes as a result of it all. In the next box, what are the things that move and motivate you? You may be still thinking about some of the experiences that have shaped you, and it will be an ongoing thing. It will be an ongoing. So how do we find the me right now? First of all, let's actually pause one sec.
Yep.
If you had to choose, tell me your name, sir.
Pete.
Pete. Pete, if you had to choose one from the things that define over the past few years, what one would it be from your list?
Frustrated.
Frustrated.
Yeah.
All right. All right then. Tell me your name, brother.
Glenn,
Glenn. If you had to choose one, Glenn.
that's defined me over the last few years.
Yeah.
I've written a PTSD diagnosis.
Okay. All right. All right. Tell me your name again, brother. Josh.
Love.
Love. All right then. Tell me your name.
Joel.
Joel.
Yep.
What have you got next?
Junto coming in here.
Junto, yeah?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Daniel.
Daniel.
Anger.
Anger. All right. Tell me.
The motivation to challenge and change myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me your name.
Nathan.
Nathan. And then each of you for the experience that have shaped you. Sorry, I forgot you. Like you didn't even matter. It's like you wasn't
Invisible.
You just disappeared.
Things that have helped define me. I think.
You had to choose one.
I just think, yeah, like Junto just has really helped define a lot of things.
Yeah.
Parts of me.
Yeah. And experiences, just randomly, anyone. Experiences that have shaped
100-kilometer walk we did.
the walk. Yeah.
Healing.
Healing.
Family relationship problems. Yeah, work challenges for myself.
Work challenges.
Yeah.
Having children.
Children. In the past 3 years, yeah?
Yeah.
Bang on to 3 years old.
Bang on 3.
And yet the things that still move and motivate.
Family, kids, health, love.
I just had business growth and expansion. I actually just wrote down like, why does that motivate me? And actually, like, just prompted me to do questions like, what does that motivate?
Because you're a builder.
Yeah.
You're a builder. You build people. You build context for people to build themselves.
Mm.
You know what I mean? You build lives. That's what Cornerstone has done. That's what you are. You're a builder. Okay. Anyone else? The things that move and motivate you.
Responsibility.
Responsibility, community.
All right. Simplicity, children, the ocean, family, health and freedom.
Beautiful.
The potential future possibilities.
All right. Now. So this is how we discover the me right now. The reason why I always go with the first three is because the things that we find, the experiences that have shaped, the things that move and motivate always take place in the immediate, they take place in the past, and they take place in the future. Because we're always living in all three spaces. We're always living in all three spaces. The only space that we actually do get to deal with the future and deal with the past, though, is in the immediate. Because, the future's, a dream, and the past is a memory. All you have is the right now, you know what I mean? But it's in the right now that you either resolve the past, or you pick up the past like a rucksack, you put it on your shoulder in the present, and then you walk into your future with your past. The present is what you have, which is the immediate. So in order to discover the me right now, what I want you to do is go back over your list. You may want to add, and I want you to take 2 from each of the boxes and put it in the me right now box and form a picture of you right now. Yeah, so look at the answers that you've given in each box. Pick out maybe 2 each from each box and write into the me right now and have a look at the me right now. Have a look at the me right now and form a picture of the me right now. This is like a face value, self-assessment. If you was doing this for a job interview, you'd be giving me all the answers that you feel that I want right now. You know how to be motivated, on top of my game, what I mean? Yeah. But if it's for yourself, you just be honest about where you find yourself and just paint an honest picture of the me right now. Okay, now, how many of you are looking at the me right now and you're looking at me right now and you're like, actually, I like what I'm looking at. All right, how many of you may be looking at the me right now and you're like, all right then, get into this. No one's looking at themselves like, oh shit, who is this? And why is he happening in my life? But look, this is the important thing about understanding the me right now. If you really do like the me right now that you're looking at, and you're positive about the me right now, that's good. Because that person will still grow and that person will still mature. If you're okay about the me right now, that's good. Because that person will still grow and that person, But if you feel like, oh shit, who is this? The good thing is that's good. Because that person can still grow and still mature. Because amongst all 3 people, the common denominator is that they have a keen understanding of who the me right now is. Because not many people take the time to think about the things that define, the experiences that have shaped, the things that move and motivate regardless, and put it into an understanding of the me right now. So, one more exercise, and then we'll get down to how this relates to resilience. I want you to think of 4 core values, a minimum of 4 core values that you live by, or at least you're striving to live by. And your core values basically say, this is who I am when no one is watching. I mean, whether in public or in private, whatever the core value may be, it may be family, it may be integrity, it may be hard work, it may be faith, it may be love, it may be community, it may be building. I want you to write down what your core values are. Okay. Go around the table and I want you to share your core values, if that's okay. Start with
Contribution, trust, value, and dedication.
Your core values.
Love, health, family, and happiness.
Core values.
Truth, love, community, healing.
I just put family. I was struggling to keep filling it out.
It will come to you. No, it will still come to you. It will still come to you.
Integrity, service, growth, trust.
I got treat people how I want to be treated, leave wherever I am better than what it was beforehand, and then family and love.
Yeah, I've just got honesty, love, integrity, and dedication to my family.
Can I ask, just by means of understanding, who taught you those values? What taught you those values, those core values?
Life. Life taught me those core values.
Anything particular in life that taught you them?
First 20 years of health, survival, next 22 years of healing.
Yeah.
Has taught me that and opening up. Yep.
Anyone else?
The first two, my grandmother, and it's just always whenever I deviate off it, it's not the best. And then I'd say the last two, just crap times, made them the most important thing, family and the love.
Probably similar to Josh, I think. Kind of mostly just life, and yeah, a couple of key mentors, probably around like the service and the growth part, but the rest probably really been highlighted probably in the last 3 years, particularly integrity and trust and family. Sure.
Probably my upbringing. Yeah, my parents, my family. Yeah,
It was very solid, very.
very solid, and they were church people all their life.
Life challenges, learning from my mistakes, wanting to do better.
Family and experiences that have happened. Call from a family.
It's interesting that a lot of our core values, they are distilled under pressure. I call it being distilled under pressure. You put something in a vat and then you just give it a look, and they're kind of like, drip, and they're like, yeah, there's one, and then drip. Yeah. I mean, most of the time, like some of how we are comes as a result of us reacting to situations that we find ourselves in. But that doesn't really speak to who we are. I think what life does, it kind of puts us under a piece of pressure. It takes from us, it adds to us. And out of that, life kind of distills. When I was 42 years old, all right, I got into an argument with the three eldest in my family, are all women. And the youngest of the three eldest, my sister Patsy, that woman is a tsunami. She is don't get that woman mad and get in an argument with her. She is a tsunami of rage. She is a raging fire, You know, and I don't know what possessed me. You know, it was something that was happening between her and my mom. I didn't like the way she was responding to my mom and the way she was dealing with my mom. And we got into this stand-up argument, raging. In the midst of the argument, she looks at me and she was like, look at you. You're nothing. You ain't never been nothing. You ain't never gonna be nothing. And in the midst of the argument, you know, anyway, the argument probably just, there was some other stuff that she said, but I'm not even gonna repeat it right now because it's just too traumatic to remember. But that part of it, later on, when I thought about it, I thought to myself, what the shit? This woman looked at me at 42 years old I said, you're nothing. You ain't never been nothing. You ain't never gonna be nothing. I thought to myself, if she would have said that to me at 22 years old, you know what I mean? When I was in my roaring 20s, running the streets of West London red, you know what I mean, back in the 80s, I would have been like, yeah, you're probably right, you know, sis, it's true. It's true, you're right. I ain't never gonna be nothing. But at 42, the frick, man. At 42, I was married. At 42, I was educated. At 42, I was an ordained minister. You know what I mean? At 42, I had a mortgage. You know what I mean? At 42, I was a father. I was just like, how the hell you can look at me at 42 years old and say, you ain't never been nothing. You ain't never gonna be nothing. Then I realized that what my sister was doing was dealing with me from the space that she had mentally allowed for me, which was here. That's what she was. And she went all the way back to chapter 22 of my life and was trying to force me to read from chapter 22, you know what I mean? When there were 22 other frigging chapters, you know what I mean, that had been added to my life since 22. You know? So I want to talk about the way in which the art of resilience comes into play. What life has and you know it, so I'm not telling you nothing that you don't know. Life has a way of turning everything on its head, you know what I mean? And when life turns it on its head, the first thing that life affects is the me right now. And what the me right now loses sight of are the core values that is actually you, despite how you're feeling, despite what's taking place around you, the core values that actually say who you are. What disappointment does, what upheaval does, it takes you away from that and says, look at you, you're nothing. You ain't never been nothing, you ain't never gonna be nothing. But despite all of that, there are still core values that say, no, this is who I am. The art of resilience is the art of remembering who you are when life is trying to make you forget who you are. Because resilience isn't actually, you know, they have the idea of the rubber band. You know, resilience is being able to snap back. But you know and I know, you sit down there and you pull a rubber band 50 times. In the end, it kind of loses its elasticity. That word always, you know, elasticity, it loses it. Put it 100 times, what is it? It's just like a floppy piece of, so resilience isn't actually about bouncing back, primarily. Resilience is actually about remembering in spite of. You know, they say the difference between somebody in the SAS and somebody in the Marines is that when the fire and the fight is at its hottest, the Marine will begin to panic sometimes, whereas the person in the SAS, Special Services, they become calmer and calmer and calmer and calmer and calmer. The hotter it gets, the calmer they become. Why? Because there's something in them that triggers, no, this is who you are. Hold on. No. This is who you are. And the art of resilience is actually about remembering. It's about remembering. Remembering the things that life is trying to make you forget. And also remembering that in the midst of it, there is space for you to learn something about yourself, create new depth for yourself. So that's why I put down telling the stories that count. I remember my best friend called him years ago. Desmond, his name is. I called him Demas. I said, D. And I was going through this is when I was in London. And I was going through this with my employer and it was just a mess. And I remember creating this mountain of misery, you know what I mean? Dragging my whole life up this mountain of misery and just perching myself on top of this mountain and just, like all best friends do, you know, if you've got them kind of best friends, they listen to you talk shit, talk shit, talk shit, talk shit, talk shit. And when you've talked enough shit, they're like, all right, I'm drowning. They throw you in a life buoy and they kind of snap you back into reality and say, look, all right, enough. And what he did was say to me, you know, Eddie, there are two stories you can tell about who you are in this moment. You can tell the story about the little black boy from Fulham, West London, who grew up, you know what I mean? Who grew up, you know, went to school, got expelled, was a little juvenile delinquent, ended up in community home schools, placed there by the courts, you know what I mean? Went into his 20s, ended up in jail, and became everything that the statistics said that he was going to become. End of story, good night. He said, or you can tell the story about the same little black boy from Fulham, West London, who got expelled from school, ended up in all of the places that he ended up in, even in prison. But in his 20s, he turned his life around because somebody said, you can write with a bigger pen because there is more, you know what I mean? And then he went on and went back to college at 25, you know, just to do his high school equivalence, you know, because it doesn't matter when you start. What matters is that you start, you know what I mean? And that you have the courage to go on. You know, and little black boy who got married, went on to university and did all the stuff that he did, became a father, became a husband. He said, you can tell two different stories, just tell the stories that count. He said, that's what you have to do, tell the stories that count. And he made me think about the way in which we tell ourselves stories and we remind ourselves. So I created this thing. I did it once. Somebody says, no, you just sounded like you're just doing a whole bunch of revisionist history. I said, no, revisionist history is saying that it didn't happen. And it didn't happen in that way. That's what revisionist is. Reframing of the story is thinking about the things that you learned in the midst and the things to learn in the midst of it. So there is a story in each and every one of us and on the pages of our lives in the ink of experience. What people do and what upheaval does is upheaval begins to tell stories. Upheaval, depression, loss, they tell stories to you. They tell stories about you. And if you let them, they will tell stories through you. I'll give you an example. When I was 14 years old, I used to get expelled from school, not expelled, suspended from school all the time. I wasn't a bad kid. I was just, in the Caribbean, we call it inner. It's just so inner, all the time, which means like, wherever there's drama, it is in the midst of it. Wherever there's noise, it is in the midst of it. You know what I mean? Where, you know, in the Caribbean, they say, boy, you're so inner. You're inner everything. Like, no, I don't turn around. You're there. You know, I used to get, anyway, I got taken to educational psychologist, 14 years old. I sat in front there with my mum, and educational psychologist said, Mrs. Hippolyte, the problem with Eddie is that he's uneducated. Can you be educated? Years later, we would find out, you know, that the British school system was never actually designed and had no intention of educating two groups of boys in West London. Number one, young Black Caribbean, first generation Black Caribbean boys, and young white Irish boys. We were targeted and written out of the education system with that word, uneducated. You know, and then I was expelled. Like, that was like what, year 9? I lasted about 6 weeks of year 9, and I was expelled from regular education. Ended up in a community home school. So that is this story, you know, and because, you know, you kind of rebel, I was allowing that to tell stories to me. I was allowing that to tell stories about me. And I was allowing it to tell stories through me. because I ended up at a community homeschool. I was taken out of my house by the court system, placed in a community homeschool, was there for like 3 years, you know what I mean? 3.5 years. And everybody in the school was just a criminal juvenile delinquent. You know what I mean? But I ended up in the workshop of Cliff German. Cliff German started at that school about 4 months before I got there. Cliff German was this old Cockney white man from East London, straight up and down, you know what I mean? Married a Scottish girl called Nancy, and brilliant engineer. And he taught us engineering. It was a school where you didn't get an education, you got a trade, you know what I mean? So you could do motor mechanics, you could do painting and decorating, you could be a brickie, you could do carpentry, you could do engineering. I ended up in his engineering workshop. He always used to say, I'm not gonna treat you like criminals. I'm just gonna treat you like boys who've made bad mistakes and stupid mistakes. But if you act like a criminal, I'll treat you like a criminal. And it's like, yes, sir, that'll work. Such a beautiful. He gave me a piece of work. He taught me arc welding. We built a little booth. He taught me arc welding. He gave me these 3 pieces of, he said, all right, Ed, I want you to take this, put it in the, take it into the booth. And this is what I want you to do. This is the result. He thought it was going to last me all morning. I was finished with the work in about 15 minutes. I said, sir, I'm finished. No, you ain't finished. Okay. I said, no, sir, honestly, I'm finished. Anyway, went down to the booth. He looked at the work. He was like, ah. And then he gave me a bit of work that lasted me the whole morning. Bear in mind that a year and a half, about 9 months before, an educational psychologist said that I was uneducated. What he had done was understand my capacity to be educated. And he figured out the way in which he engaged that capacity. Stories and upheaval and opinions tell stories to us. They tell stories through us. And if we're careful, they tell stories about us. But what we do is we get to tell the stories of us and the stories for us. And we get to tell the stories for us. When we sit down to think about who is the me right now, what are my core values that I'm forgetting? That's when we get to tell the stories of us and the stories for us. So I want to give you a framework for thinking about your stories. I'm speaking a lot, and I'm going to speak until somebody interrupts me. So if you need to interrupt me, just interrupt me. And I should have told you this at the beginning. Just interrupt me. And if it's sounding like bullshit, just say, look, Ed, it's sounding like bullshit. I need to go. You know what I mean? And just piss off. The rest of you can stay. You know what I mean? No, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking. You know. How do we tell those stories? There are 5 stories, and I want you to think about them. Yeah. The first stories are what I call the meaningful mosaic stories. When things crashes around you, it's difficult to figure out what's going on in this whole space because things smash so much that you can't put a real picture of what's going on and why it's going on. And what you do get, though, are fragments. What is a mosaic? Yeah. But out of the fragments, you do what?
Great art.
You create art out of it. And so I call it just meaningful mosaics. You know, one of the ways of thinking about your stories, think about a framework for some of your stories of meaningful mosaics. Write that down so that you don't forget it. Meaningful mosaics. Now that I've said, you can write it in the little box. So just, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're gonna go around you can write it in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Meaningful mosaics. Think about that as a framework. It won't give you the whole picture, but it'll give you enough to keep on going. It'll give you enough you know, and sometimes it isn't meaning that's found. Sometimes it's just resolve, all right, we can just, all right, we'll just keep, let's just keep moving. Sometimes let's just keep moving. The other framework is what I call the immediate you story. And the immediate you is the reminder that, damn, you're still here. You're still here. Yeah, you're still here. You know, I mean, you ain't got all the answers, but the immediate you is still here. You ain't got it all together, but damn, you're still here with a willingness. You know, the immediate you also is about remembering that you have grown and that you did, you know, you did get some of it together. You know, you don't have all the answers, but the immediate you, it's about remembering the things about the immediate you that it's easy to forget. Think about the stories in your experiences and the me right now that speak to the immediate you, because resilience and the ability to come back is actually based on you. This one is my favorite one. It's called the hidden stories. The hidden stories. The hidden stories you might find in a place like Cornerstone. What do I mean? You might find in a place like Junta. When you come together in circles like this, what you do is you connect yourself to other men and you begin to journey together. Hidden stories are found, no, actually hidden stories are lost in the fast pace, in the slow pace, and in the mundane pace of life. But this is what happens, yeah? Mike and I, we chat, and then Mike will say, you know, listen, the thing is, Ed, that when you are at your worst, I've learned that your worst gives you opportunities and options to think about whether or not you want to stay your worst or you want to be your best. And I'm like, I'm not deep, right? I said, I'm a deep guy. And then Mike and I carried on down the road, you know what I mean? Mike said that in 2020, and then in 2022, you know, Mike and I are sitting down and Mike is like, shit, I don't even know if I want to do this. What are we going to do? I don't know what, I'm just like thinking. And I said, yeah, but Mike, don't you remember when you said that when you're at your, you know what I mean? And life is at its worst and everything, that gives you the opportunity to figure out whether you want to be your best or whether you want to, and he's like, that's the answer. Just knuckle down. Then, the hidden stories, the stories that, and the remembrances of you that just get lost, that your friends pick up, put in their pocket, and at the time you least expect it, they say like, no, but don't you remember? And you're like, oh shit, yeah. Hidden stories, but hidden stories are only found in community. Because like I said, in the fast pace, in the slow pace, and in the mundane space, you just drop them on the floor. You forget all about them. But as you're traveling with friends, in a place like Junto, you'll remember. You know what I mean?
Did I actually say that?
No, you didn't. I just made that
Oh,
up.
that sounded really fucking good.
Yeah.
What did you say?
The whole idea, like when life is at its worst, you know what I mean? It gives you the opportunity to just figure out whether or not you're gonna just be at its worst, or, you know, it gives you the options to decide what it is you want to be. You know, it's something that Mike would have said anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know, it's my test, isn't it?
It is very important.
Come on, everybody knows it's my test.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
I was picturing you walking with Mike. He'd said it was profound.
Yeah,
Said, you know,
I'm serious. Yeah, it's my test.
It
You know
sounds
what
a
I
bit
mean?
like, it sounds like
Definitely
an Eddie version of like maybe 5 words that I've put together. Hey, Eddie, stop being shit or something like that.
You know, but that's the point I'm making. A friend of mine reminded me, I had that experience. I was on my way, my last employer, And because I'm raised in faith, I'm conscious of the fact when God speaks to me, you know what I mean? And I remember he just said to me, listen, whatever happened, just out of nowhere, just listen, whatever happens today, just take it as from me. Okay. And that started a spiral, you know what I mean, of me finally just being unemployed. You know what I mean? I think it was like 7 months later. And then I started working for myself. I was forced to start to work for myself 2018. And then towards the end of 2018, I was just like, damn. And then a friend of mine, we went out to eat that evening, and we was traveling in the car. He said, oh, listen, we ain't caught up in a while. I said, yeah, come pick me up. Went down, this was pre-COVID Goldberg's on Derby Street. Remember when Goldberg's would be open until 1 in the morning? I swear they used to have to throw us out at times, you know what I mean? Pre-COVID, and we pulled up there about 11 o'clock. I remember him saying to me, because I had this thing in my head, but I didn't tell him what was going on. It was just bugging me, like, where I am right now, is this where I'm really supposed to be? Or did I just convince myself, no, this is where you're supposed to be? And then he said, you know something, Ed, I'll never forget that time when you said to me that you're driving and God said to you, whatever happens today, take it as from me. When he told me that, all the frustration and the weight left me, because it was just one of the hidden stories that I'd forgotten about. It was literally one of the hidden stories that I just. So remember that as a framework. The other one is what I call the value caching stories. Value caching stories are difficult ones. Albert Bandura, he is the father of resilience, and he calls this the mastery of experiences. He calls it the mastery of experiences. I call it the value caching stories. Why? Because they're the stories we need to learn from, but they're the stories we want to let go.
Who was that guy?
Albert Bandura.
Thank you.
He's the father of resilience, the idea of resilience. He calls this the mastery of experience. And value caching stories basically are the stories that you just have to go back over. You don't want to. They're the remembrances that you have to go back over. You really don't want to, but sometimes you have to go back over them for a number of reasons. Number one, to figure out, is there anything left to learn here? And just to say like, no, there ain't nothing left to learn here, move on. You know, sometimes you go back over those stories so that you can finally say, it actually wasn't my fault. I just been carrying water for so-and-so. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't my fault, you know. Sometimes you go back over the stories so that you can sit and say, yeah, it was me. Yeah. I have to just stop blaming people. No, it was me. You know what I mean? But you're able to do it because you're able to, number one, figure out the me right now. And using this as a framework.
You find with that as well, the way I go over those
Mm-hmm.
is there any part of this that still has a hold on me?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's sometimes we keep it having a hold on us as some kind of like penance. But like, no, don't do penance. Just admit what it was, accept what it was, and choose not to bring that person then into you right now. Because you can't change. You can't go back and change what happened back then. If you broke it, it's forever broke. But what you can go back and do is just say, all right, who was the me back then that broke it? What was driving me? You know what I mean? Now that I'm in this place where I can look back and with honesty, just like, all right, what was it about me back then? Why was it about me then? When you can sit back with honesty and do that, and then decide, okay, in the present, I'm not bringing that person. Yeah. then you can let it go and just stop doing penance. We do penance because we're not willing to forgive ourselves. We're not willing to come to terms with who we were then, so that we don't have to be that person now. You know, I think, and that is always going to be a fool's errand for us. That is always going to be a fool's errand. Value caching stories. There's always going to be something to be found, even if what is found is there ain't nothing to be found. Yeah, like there's nothing here. All right, enough. Yeah, there's nothing here anymore, Ed. Enough. But you have to be willing to do that. But you have a framework. The me right now, understanding your core values, then realizing, all right, I can't sit here on my own. Let me call one of the friends, we call one of the man them from Junto. Listen, I need you to come round and sit with me while I work this thing through. Because if I work it through, I'm going to be just subjective and I'm going to still find a way to blame. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work it through with you and just be honest with me, you know, which leads to the last one. The vulnerable stories.
Oh, the juice. The juice.
The vulnerable stories. Dr. Michael Patterson, I spoke at a resilience conference in 2021. We had a little bit of a break in 2021. Was it 2019? I felt like it's 20. Anyway, he said this. He's a clinical psychologist, and he said, and I quote, vulnerability is a gift to be unwrapped and not shunned. Yeah, vulnerability is a gift to be unwrapped and not shunned. Vulnerability is a gift to be unwrapped and not shunned. We're socialized as men into not being vulnerable because vulnerability is seen as weakness. Also, sometimes we may just be in spaces where I can't be vulnerable here because I don't want it leveraged against me. I don't want my vulnerability weaponized against me. Sometimes we find our spaces in relationships where we've been vulnerable and our hearts haven't been handled with care. Our hearts, our love, our trust, you know what I mean? Our willingness to give of ourselves hasn't been handled with care. And so we resist vulnerability. Vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness. Vulnerability is just the admitting that I can only go so far on my own. So, like, who's going to journey with me? That's all it is. It's not the admittance that you can't do it. It's just the recognition that I've gone as far as I can go. I remember when Ray is a friend of ours. Ray was first doing his training, and he's a physical instructor. You know, I mean, he's worked there. Actually, Mike may have done this with you as well. Has Mike ever done that training with you? Then he puts you in the harness. You know the harness. Listen. Listen, brother.
It's an S&M thing.
Listen, yeah. You will love it. Anyway, it just puts you in this harness, and you'll say, all right, you know, you'll do various body movements and exercises. But because you have the harness now, what you would normally do, the harness is constantly pulling against you. Constantly pulling against you. I have never, ever seen anybody put that harness on. I've never seen a male put that harness on with a proper instructor and not break down in tears. Yeah. Trust me, that bad boy will make you cry. It will. And I remember there was this guy at Avondale University. He was just the fittest and just a proper little jock, you know. And we were talking, and he was saying that he was doing some training with Ray. I said, "Did he put the harness on you?" And he said, "Yeah, he put the harness on me." And I said, "You cried." And he looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, man, right." Why? Because what the harness does, is the harness pushes you as far as you can go. And then when you tell yourself you cannot take more, the harness makes you find new depth. It's mad. It's mad. It makes you find new depth. And the tears are the tears that you can't go no more. And then the tears that you've found new depth. It's beautiful. And the harness is
Where's this harness?
it is a real, it's a beautiful instrument of vulnerability. It's just a beautiful instrument that it helps a man to understand it's okay to not be able to go further than here. All right, let me now show you how to go further than here. Let me help you to find the depth that you've got that will help you go further than there. And the vulnerability stories, allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to always come back to here. Allow yourself to always come back to here. Always come back to here. Always come back to here. This is a framework. The meaningful mosaic stories, the immediate use stories, the hidden stories, the value caching stories, and the vulnerable stories. All of them together. For me, that is the art of resilience. The art of resilience is remembering that when life writes you off, and when situations write you off, right, God writes with a bigger pen. Love writes with a bigger pen. The universe writes with a bigger pen. Writes with a bigger pen. And if you're willing to always sit in a place of honesty with the me right now, it's interesting. You see this exercise that I've given you now, the me right now. Now that you've done it, we're in June. I guarantee you, do this again before the year ends. Now that you've got the framework, just do this exercise again before the year ends. I guarantee you, the me right now would have shifted. Yeah. The me right now would have shifted. You may even add new things to your core values. You may add new things to your core values. But keep it as a framework. Any questions? Any questions? Any, not so much questions, any reflection, anything that you struggle with in what I've said, anything that resonates with you. Oh, all right then. In everybody in a spare part, in a spare space on the paper, I want you to write 22/6. So 22nd of the 6th. 22nd of the 6th. Yeah. You've listened to me ramble on for the best part of nearly an hour. Gosh, sorry.
Has it only been an hour?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, best part of an hour. For you, what is your big takeaway from all of this? For you, what's
Myself,
yeah?
oh man, just everything that you've really spoken about has resonated with me in regards to the challenges that I've had and put myself through in life.
Mhm.
But just having the framework to be able to just look back at it and not look back at it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
To
yeah,
just
yeah.
move forward, and what you're saying sort of really drives home with me, to not worry about what that person was back then and keep driving forward.
So like a usable framework.
Really usable.
All right, write that down. That's your
Yeah.
big takeaway, a usable framework. What's your big takeaway?
Reassurance.
Reassurance. Beautiful. Write that down. That's your big takeaway.
Reassurance of what?
Myself. And what I've just sort of, I guess,
All right, reassurance of
Yeah.
self or self
Yeah.
reassurance, self reassurance. Yeah. It's your big takeaway.
I guess I really like framing, you know, the different versions of yourself and understanding like coming back to that me right now in the different situations.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think having that kind of like that foundation to go, or what is, you know, who actually am I right now, and
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
what I know to be true.
Yeah.
And
So
focusing on that. Can't write that down.
a self-reflective lens. Yeah. A healthy self-reflective lens. You've written yours down already.
Oh, I started. I thought I'd forget by the time he gets.
What was yours?
No, I liked when you touch on that past, present and future.
Yeah.
You're just realizing, the past, even though you let it define you.
Yeah.
You don't need to let it define you.
Yeah.
And so the present's where you got to do something.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I really like you can choose to bring the person, the old version.
Yeah.
You can choose
Yeah.
to bring them up, or you utilize this
Yeah.
sort of new version of you.
You can understand who that person was without
Yeah.
bringing them here. You know, you can't leave them there, but admit who they were, so that you can make distance between yourself and that, And I mean, a lot of it sounds good in theory, but then when you have to live that bad boy out, you know what I mean? Because they sometimes clamor, they clamor to get back. Just but no, because what they do then is they begin to devalue everything you've now built. Yeah, between then and now. To allow them in begins to devalue and, degenerate everything that you've now built. What's your big takeaway?
Probably close to threefold. It's all around the meaningful mosaic. So something that I really enjoy doing in life now is being in a situation where it might be like the meaningful mosaic. So things have gone to shit. What's going to pop up now? What part of the past you, or what part of the conditioning, or what is it? And then what is it that shines a light on that for you? Community, your wife, your family. What is that, and how do you receive that? And for me personally, I know it might sound a little bit sadistic, but I enjoy those periods of time now in my life because it's the way that I can get to those parts that I touched on earlier on that may still have a little bit of a hold there. And you can't quite, they're not there until you end up in a situation like this.
Yeah.
Or you're helping a brother or a sister through a situation like this and being able to do that. So yeah, I think putting a name to it is really nice. Meaningful mosaics, I really like that. Because for me, it is a little bit like art. Taking that shit, putting it together.
Making your art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really nice, right? Yeah, so that's probably the key takeaway is meaningful mosaics, putting a name to that, which is actually quite beautiful. I think it's quite beautiful. It's one of life's gifts.
It's one of my Mikeisms. Still big time.
Oh, mate, this is the most amount of people I've encountered for close to a month, so I've heard a lot of noise. But just that thing when you like when you were a kid and you changed. For me, that resonates. Yeah, so I've written it down and I'll need to reflect on it.
Reflect on it.
But did your sister apologise?
No, she ain't built that way.
Sorry.
No, she ain't built that way, man. She ain't built that way. And I carried it for a while, but then I thought like, nah, if I'm carrying it, then, you know what I mean? She still ain't apologized to me. But I'm like, if I'm carrying it, I'm just carrying the poison of chapter 22. Like, I'm in chapter 40, I'm in chapter 42 now. Like, no. If she don't want to say, you know, if she don't want to apologize, I mean, when the family heard what she had said, oh my gosh, my family collectively threw fire in her backside, you know what I mean? Threw fire in her backside, you know. But like, you know, I can't wait on her to apologize. You know, I can't, you know, and so I didn't, because I just realized, all right, we're built different. We're built different. And I just have to, mommy said, get back to hair. So, hey, I'm just gonna get back to hair. I realized with you, sis, that this is where I have to deal with you, because hair, you can't deal with me here. You know what I mean? And trust me, if my sister called me today and said, Eddie, blah, 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 I will fly halfway around the world for her. But no, you can't sit at the table with me. Not until you do the work on you. Yeah. There's a certain level of work you have to do for you. I'm like, no, sit, come pull up at the table. You know what I mean? Pull up at the table of my heart, as it were. No, you know, if you're hungry, come and eat. But not pull up at the table of my heart. That, yeah, no, that I have to protect from you until you do your work. You know what I mean? Until you do your work. And it's hardest because, you know, family know you best. You know, but family, when they know you best, they know how to hurt you deepest. You know, they know how to hurt you deepest. So even with and this is why this is sometimes a good tool for you to navigate families. Listen, I'm from a family of 10, 9, 8. I didn't even have an opinion that was listened to in my family until I turned 40. It's like, and I'm talking about during my 30s, like, you know, I'm well known in London as a minister, as a leader, as a community activist. I never brought people around my family. I mean, just sit down and be quiet. I remember the first time my big brother called me. I'm coming to you. My big brother called me for some advice, and like my wife saw me on the phone, and she saw just like, what is it? It's like, it's Tommy, my big brother. You know, we grew up in Oregon. It's like, he's calling me for advice. She said, give him advice. And just speaking to him, and the only way I could, what I naturally wanted to say was, did you speak to mommy? What did mommy say? And I'm talking about the big old grown man, you know. And the only way I could actually give him advice for what he was talking to me about is that I had to say, all right, this is not my brother. And I dealt with him as a parishioner, because sometimes my parishioners would call me with the same legal questions and that. And I dealt with him as a parishioner. And he was like, yeah. All right, then. No, I appreciate that. No. Yeah, that was great. No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I said, all right, that's no problem. That's no problem. And then I just reverted back to the youngest. Like, did you call mommy though? What did mommy say? You know, I don't know. Sometimes this, you know, because when you know your family, they know you, but sometimes they don't know all the ways in which you have changed. They don't know all the ways in which you've grown. They don't know in all the ways in which you've left that attitude or left that way of thinking about the world, about them, about yourself, you know. And so it's important. What's your big takeaway?
It's a framework of awareness of yourself and looking into the framework. It allows you to take a breath and or a snapshot of me right now, you know. And like I said at the start, the possibilities of moving forward. Here we are right now, but the framework is there, and it sort of hits you in the head and say, wake up and have a look.
Well, all in all, that's the art of resilience. I hope it's made sense. Sorry that I didn't have any deeper Mikeisms for you. I only had that one. You know what I mean? You can look back over the recording and catch it.
We can work with that one.
Yeah, that's a good framework for working. Yeah, you know what I mean? We'll put it up on the wall, you know what I mean? But no, thank you for allowing me to sit with you guys. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Mike, for
It's,
bringing me.
thank you. It's simple, but it's pretty deep, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
It's a pleasure. Honestly, it's a pleasure.
I'm assuming I was just having this thought when I was talking before about the me right now, this sort of version, this version of me right now, like I guess is it then going back to the core values that build certainty around the person that you think you are?
Well, the me right now isn't fixed.
Yeah.
The me right now is just a combination of, the past, present, and future in that immediate. Yeah. If you find yourself sometimes at a juncture, you find yourself, let me think about how I'm doing, you know what I mean, further down. All right, what's been defining me over the past 6 months? What are the experiences that have been shaping me? What are the things that are now moving and motivating me? All right, so what does the me right now look like? In 6 months' time, it's going to be different from now because life isn't static. Your story isn't static. Life isn't static, so your story can never be static. We are not once and for all stories of ourselves. We're always growing. You know what I mean? We come in contact with people, there's the great thing about friendships and the important thing about friendships. In order to truly be in relationship and friendship, there's things of yourself that you're going to have to let go in order to make room for this person. That in any relationship, you know what I mean? If you're in a relationship with a partner, there are things about yourself you honestly have to just move to the side to make room for them. You know what I mean? Because you go from being an independent person to being an interdependent person. And so life isn't static. And the me right now isn't static. So you're always going to find a growing place in the me right now. You know what I mean? Your core values are sometimes going to change because life changes. You know what I mean? Certain core values you may have, they don't journey with you forever. They just journey with you for a season. You know what I mean? Just like sometimes people in the Caribbean, we say not everybody that comes with you can go with you. Yeah, sometimes people just come with you for a season. And what happens is as you enter a new season, there's going to be things, places in which you grow, things that reveal themselves about who you are and about how this person is, that will say, no, you can't come with me further. But yeah, we're going further down the road. Yeah, and you just have to be honest enough and brave enough. It doesn't mean that you cut them off. It just means in this, you won't journey with me. We'll always be here, but here, no, you ain't going to come with me to here. You know what I mean? You ain't going to come with me to here. And that's not a bad thing. That's just a growing thing. That's a growing thing. So the me right now, the core values, the me right now is just going to give you the marker for where you are. The core values is going to give you, you know what I mean, the North Star for how you get back to yourself and then just continue to grow, and just continue to grow.
So with the art of resilience being the past, the present, and the future, and that being resilience being a character strength trait, what does resilience look like for you at boiling point? And so something that you're really triggered by in the moment that is all encompassing. How does the framework of resilience get you back from that boiling point?
I think if you remember that resilience and the art of resilience is about using the framing of those stories. What are these stories? What is this situation saying to me? And what am I saying to myself in the midst of it? So resilience, at the boiling point is figuring out what is this boiling point trying to say to me? What is it trying to create in me? What is it telling me about myself and the way I'm reacting to everybody else around me? Is this a true picture of who I actually am? Or is this situation creating this picture that I now have to somehow acquiesce to? You know, do I have to be this story? Do I have to be this story? Is this telling stories to me, about me, through me? Or am I telling the stories of me? What are the stories of me? What are the stories for me? Me telling my stories. You know, so I think what resilience does, and the remembrance, the art of resilience, is that the art of resilience, it tries to just separate you from the boiling. You know, it tries to separate you from the story that is seeking to crush your life and crush your spirit, and just say, listen, is that a true story? Is that a true understanding of yourself? Is that a true seeing of yourself? And if it isn't, well, what is? Do you know how to see it? Well, maybe it might be a hidden story, because your journey in community, somebody will say like, no, this is the true saying of you. That ain't the true saying of you. This is the true saying of you. Remember it, read it again. You know what I mean? Go over that story. Now, this is it, you know? So I think the art of resilience is pausing, even at the point of burning, you know, and whose story is this? Is this my story, or is this their story? You know, yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Like in total transparency, I had a day with Joel the other day, and I'm happy to share. I had the worst day fucking ever. So my daughter, on the way to school at Budgie, died. And then a mate of mine's son was lost at sea, and I was getting phone calls about work that I used to do. And then I was with Joel and my son, who fucked his ACL, MCL, fucked his other knee. And Joel, even Joel goes, how does this shit happen to you? And I was just going, like, so I'm thinking I was resilient because I got through that day. I got to the end of the day and I woke up next day, and that was a win. And like, just that concept of, I feel like they were all external things that impacted me. And yeah.
And what did they say to you?
Well, it was a real victim. I felt like a real victim. I was just so in that moment, just going, why does this all happen to me?
And what did that say about you, to you? What was that saying about you?
Well, I know that I feel so much compassion towards all the parties involved there that, I don't know, it's the victim, but also the amount of compassion that I have for all those three entities there. That I just felt exhausted. I was just like, where do I give my love and attention, and torn, and it was just a tough day. And
did you have bandwidth to give love to all three of them?
Yeah.
And where did you replenish that? Why not?
No, I don't know how to. Yeah.
Well, you're here.
Yeah,
So
that's
one
right.
way.
Yeah, and I knew, and Mike had been messaging me, and a couple other people had been to get me back. And I made the decision to come in tonight. So yeah, this was my first step towards.
And what does replenishing that look like? All right, well, begin there. Begin there. You know what I mean? Because you have the capacity to give empathetic love and care when people's lives, you know, but you can't figure out, all right, how do I, you know, when you live around consumers, people consume. Like you are a bank, and everybody plugs into you and they consume. You know what I mean? You have to figure out, all right, how do I replenish? Because my me work has to be as important as my you work, especially if you work in a place like this. You know what I mean? I'll mark my weight, I'll mark my this, I'll mark my fitness, I'll mark my this, I'll mark my, you know what I mean?
So not to put you on the spot, Mark, but how do you replenish? How do you, because you are a bank and people withdraw, how do you replenish?
I mean, that's been a real challenge over the last couple of years, for sure. And I reflected on this like a lot. Yeah, with different because I feel when people ask, it's pressure, and then I feel pressure, and then what I sort of journaled on was like a lot of that pressure was like fear. Like I felt fearful that if I didn't give that person love, or if I didn't do whatever, then I wouldn't be me. Like I wouldn't be able to uphold the values and stuff like that, I think. And I think what I'm trying to work through and land on is like, you know, when I've been messaging you and I listened to something the other day and it just sort of put it really well, but it was like a lot of people told me like pretty early getting into this sort of work, like you can only be a supporter. You can't fix anyone. You can, so for me, it was just like, just do what you can and know that that's enough. So that's probably like part one, is like whatever you've got to give, and it might not even be giving. It might just be being yourself. So just, if focusing on you helps give other people strength, then that's like enough. I think something happened a little while ago, and I don't think it was anyone here, and I was like, fuck, like I feel like that person could go and take themselves out tonight or tomorrow, and I was like, fuck. I was like, but I said, like, but you've done enough. Like, I was like, well, it's okay to say, like, I think I've done enough without it happening. But I was acceptable. I was accepting of my contribution in that moment. So that's for me, like part one is like we're just doing the best we can with the tools that we got.
That's resilience as well, isn't it? That's knowing that you've done enough.
Yeah, and I guess, then there's probably the second part of like accepting of like what you're in control of. It's like, cool, I can't control what Glenn does. Like I can just show up for him how I would like someone to show up for me. And then, the replenishing part is like is an ongoing conversation. I love going, we talked about it the other week, I love going hitting golf balls, and I haven't done that for fucking 2 months. And that's a way that I sort of replenish, and it's and even like I've had a really good day today because I've spent a lot of time creating, and like Eddie said, like you're a builder. Like for me, it's like building and creating things. And I've spoken about that before. Like that really fills me up. It motivates me and energizes me. And so some conversations I had today were fucking awesome to sort of fuel that. But then I have to be careful that it's like not too many different ways. So if I can focus that energy a bit more. But for me, it's knowing I've done enough, accepting, like just trying to stick with what's in my control, and not taking things too personally. I got some coaching on that the other week. It's like, if you make things too personal, they become really personal for you. So it's not trying to be like impersonal, but for your kids. Go.
I remember years ago in London, working in a community, really difficult community in South London, and I was just running ragged, just running both ends in the middle, just burning the candle to nothing. And I just came to this place where I realized that when you realize you can't save everybody, you'll begin to help somebody. Yeah, because what you do is you kind of focus your energy. Yeah, you spread it all the way thin. Like, brother, you ain't helping nobody. You're trying to save everybody. You can't save everybody. So stop trying to save everybody. Not everybody actually wants to even be saved. Sometimes people just want your presence, not your help, just your actual presence. You know what I mean? And then you'll be able to help somebody, because what you do then is you begin to focus your energy. You know, so I'm saying, if you have the capacity to actually be empathetically caring to others, figure out the way in which you replenish yourself. Remind yourself that you are worthy of replenishing. First of all, you know what I mean? Because carers don't care for themselves. You know, and if the carer don't care for themselves, what's going to become of the carer? You know what I mean? And so remind yourself that you are worthy of the care. Remind yourself that you actually need the care, you know, and replenish yourself.
One of the things you spoke about with Joe the other week was like drops in the bucket. It's probably not going to be one thing. It's not going to be going to hit golf balls. It's a cumulative effect of, yeah, cool, do a bit of training, do a bit of this, do a bit of that, and yeah, go.
I think it's super important, speaking to this, buddy, to understand that we all fall off, and to have the awareness around that. And the moment that you have the awareness around that, to start taking those mini steps to being able to bring you back to what it is that keeps you alive, what it is that lights you up, but not, you know, something. I'll draw from what you said earlier on about, you know, God speaking through you. I've had really amazing experience just of recent times where what came through for me from another spiritual advisor was, in our time, not yours, Josh. And that's from my unfolding of what I'm embarking on in life at the moment as well. But, you know, if I get knocked off center, the first thing I need to do is step back and create the awareness of, this is what knocked me off center. I understand that. I probably gave more energy than what I had to give to that situation. Now, what do I need to be able to do to nurture myself, to reground myself, to stop myself from kiting, and to bring myself and center myself so that if something like this happens again on a daily basis, as it normally does, I've got enough for me before I start giving to somebody else. Because if you don't, you know, one of the best things I ever heard was, if you're not starting your day by filling your own cup past 100%, once you go out into life, life is going to take from you, take. So if you don't come from 100%, meaning you filled your cup to as far as you can possibly fill it, then every single day you're going to arrive home in the negative. You want to fill that as much as possible on it. And sometimes, like for me, speaking from experience, like I might only get 11 minutes of breath work in that day, but that's my win. Or some days I'll have the most perfect, amazing start to the day, and I'll go, geez, I wish I could start this way every single day. And then there's sometimes you go 2 weeks because you're sick or something's knocked you off kilter, and you're like, well, I know the reason why I feel like this is because I've lost my way in filling my own cup. And the faster I can get back to doing that, and like this is the first step to doing it, by the way, because taking that first step to get back onto the treadmill is the first step to be able to just incrementally get you to where you need to be again. But nobody can rush it. Patience is the biggest thing. Like when you're in the fire, like you're explaining, like I can feel it. All I've wanted to do is fucking hug you the whole time that you're sitting there. I'm serious too. I've had, because I don't know where you are right now, I've had to stop myself from putting my hand on your knee. It's just allowing yourself the time to just slowly get yourself back there.
And the other thing to add with that as well, Josh, is accountability.
Yeah.
Don't do it alone.
Can't do it alone.
That's the strength of vulnerability. Strength of vulnerability is like, this is how I'm feeling right now, John. I need you to show me. And this is what I want to do. And I need you to hold me accountable. And he's like, yeah, no problem. You know.
I think it's you just what you said before, like when you do fall off and you go off center, like it's, you know, you find yourself in that victim because everything becomes like, it's like, fuck, this is fucked. And why is this fucking person doing this? And you really do become this victim, and I can do that on a fucking weekly basis. Like, oh, why me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? And I think those steps, those like little steps, sort of start to remove some of that sort of victim mentality. And even when you can catch yourself like languaging it like that, it's fucking perfect that you even like identified that. I'm a fucking victim. It's like, yeah, cool. So, and what Eddie said before was like, heaps of people have said it, but you know, why are these things happening to me? It's like, cool, this is happening for me? And like this beautiful mosaic sort of thing. And oh man, bro, I just think about your journey, like, you know, the first like half of this year, you know, and yourself as well. Like, and it's like, if you've read like The Alchemist, it's like the fucking universe is just, it's just fucking testing you. It's just testing you. It's just testing you. It's like, cool, like, fuck, this is the next test. Can I replenish myself? Can I get back to that version of me? So
The fucking universe does it to us all, bro.
you're right where you need to be, like all that stuff, and you know that stuff.
We are all tested for that reason, and it's my belief. It's only my belief. I can speak from my own belief a little bit. I'm always like, the universe is like, so I'm going to give you a little bit more. Just going to give you a little bit more because you say you're here. I'm going to test you. Are you really here? And if not, what do you got to do to get there?
And sometimes we say, why me? And the universe is like, Rob, why not you, man?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying it in a vindictive way.
No.
It's like, Rob, why not you, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not you? You know what I mean? These three people, their life is going to turn to shit, and I'm bringing all three of them to you.
If the universe had a voice, I think it'd be your voice.
Yeah, sometimes the universe is like,
Caribbean, West London, back.
like, literally, why not you? Yeah, why not you? You know, sometimes, yeah, I think next time it happens, change the word. And instead of saying, why am I the victim? Just, why am I the chosen? And why am I the chosen in this moment? What do I bring to this? And replenish yourself from there. Because I think if you replenish yourself from being the chosen rather than the victim, it's just like, all right then, yeah. I know that there are times when I'm at home and I need people to call me. I just do. I need people to call me because I'm emotionally struggling. And I know the only reason why people are going to call me is because they want me to help them. Yeah. I sit at home, no word of a lie. I sit at home conscious of the fact that no one calls me to ask me how I'm doing. And I mean it. They literally do not do that.
You're not leaving here without giving me your number, Eddie.
No, I'm talking about the people who know me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm talking about, like, you know, I'm a minister trained from a community of ministers. And ministers are like, oh, Eddie, can we have coffee? You know, I'm like, sure. You know, I like a good cup of coffee. They buy me breakfast and they pour out their whole life, and you know, I help. But they literally do not text and say like, yo, E, how you doing? How you eating? Are you getting work? Like, they just don't do it. And I sit there and I'm like, I need somebody to call me, man. You know, and then I just hear the universe go by like, boo, you know, and then somebody call me and I'm thinking, no, I'm doing, they're like, yeah, can we have coffee? I'm like, what the hell, man? No, I want to have coffee, man. I want to have. And I realized it's because I'm built with the capacity to do that. You know what I mean? So rather than victim, just like, yeah, why me? Yeah, why not you? Why am I the chosen in this moment? You know, and, you know, just change the framing, just reframe the story. Yeah, reframe the story. Yeah. Yeah.
The universe brought you here today, Eddie.
I believe so.
It brought us all here for a reason today. I'm very grateful that
having said
it's
that,
thinking of us.
I feel like I can cry now. I just missed my mum, and I needed a safe place to cry, and I couldn't find it. This is my place. Sure, I'm gonna be all right. I know it just seems weird right now, but shit.
It's not weird, bro.
Not weird, mate. It's okay. We appreciate you sharing that with us too.
You all need our mums, don't we?
Yeah.
That's a pivotal role in your life, don't they?
Still talk to her?
I talk to her in my spirit. Yeah.
My dad's passing, I'll talk to him all the time.
Talk to her in my spirit. Yeah.
And I can almost say what he's gonna say back to me, because I know him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the conversations that you can have with them, pretty special, because you know what they're gonna say. And yeah, go on.
I had a little cry this morning. Actually, you read Dobbo's post, yeah, just about grief and loss, and so fuck, that hit me right in the guts this morning. And yeah,
Fucking meaningful mosaics.
Another beautiful baby in his house, like it's just
yeah.
That was nice.
But also torturous. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Right, Eddie, fuck.
You okay, mate?
Yeah, I am.
Man, he's
I
fucking-
just
You just had a cry. Of course he's okay.
just
It's
needed
fucking
to-
amazing.
I
So good.
haven't been able to release.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's nice that we've created a space for you to be able to do that.
yeah. You better edit this part out. I swear. Yeah.
The vulnerability, bro.
Yeah.
That's the space, Mike. The junta.
And I didn't have to do anything. I guess that's sort of the, you know,
I think,
I do this stuff for me.
yeah,
You know, like ultimately, like I do this stuff for me, and if you guys come along for the ride and you get something out of it, then that's fucking awesome.
just like I said at the beginning, I do this as self-therapy because we're always in therapy. You know what I mean? But I think it's important for me as a man to find safe spaces amongst men where I can release. You know what I mean? Safe spaces amongst men where, so this is good, you know.
I just want to say it's amazing, like where you seem to have come from. Like, yeah. Yeah, had a pretty messed up childhood by the sound.
Yeah. My mum she did her
I
best.
couldn't imagine making life changes like you did in my early to mid-20s. Hell no.
25 was the year.
What was the catalyst, Eddie? If you don't mind sharing.
The catalyst for me was finding faith again. I think what it did, it just kind of gave a north star to my spirit that was missing.
How did that come in for you?
Well, funny enough, I came to faith when I was 17 and I left when I was 19. And the African theologian Saint Augustine says that there is a God-shaped vacuum in every heart that can only be filled by the presence of God. It was Solomon, he gets it from Solomon, but Solomon says God has placed eternity within us. You know what I mean? In whichever way you look at it. And I just felt the vacuum at 25 again. And the vacuum was filled by the presence of the divine. just my connection. I just had a mum who just knew how to pray me back to life and just encourage me back to life and nag me back to life and love me back to life. As mums do, they just know how to do it all, you know what I mean? And so that became the catalyst for me at 25. And yeah, and that's been my journey since then. Yeah.
It's really beautiful to me to hear, and I've spent my entire life doing this, is when I do hear people talk about their parents the way that you do, because my experience wasn't that, wasn't. So to know that even through your darkest days, you did have your mother there, and she did do the best that she could. Because for me, I hated the whole religion thing. I fought back against all of that sort of stuff because it was so hard for so long. But it wasn't until I found what we could call faith through spirituality in my way, to be able to accept that. Even muttering the word God was like muttering a stone from my throat, because I was just so angry with that. But the acceptance around that, and also the acceptance around being able to accept that my mother did the best she could with the tools that she had at that stage as well. But it's just really beautiful for me whenever I do hear those that have got such a deep connection to their parents, because that's been a part of my healing journey, is that I have not had that connection to my parents like a lot of people. There's been a lot of hate, a lot of anger, a lot of disappointment that has only been healed over the last probably decade, through a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, of coming back to that as well and uncovering that sort of stuff that we're talking about. But definitely didn't expect tonight to go this way, and it's really beautiful because I actually feel like it's what's been missing a little bit. So thank you everybody for being vulnerable. And it sounds to me like this framework works pretty well, because it has brought a lot out tonight. So thank you.
Glad it's a good framework.
Yeah.
Glad it's a good framework. I'm glad it's a usable framework. Yeah.
You think your mum's proud?
Yeah. I have made her proud. I did make her proud.
You proud, Ed?
Am I proud?
Yeah.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to be. Otherwise, I just make a nonsense of all the love and the time and effort that people have poured into me. You know what I mean? I'm proud of where I am so far. I mean, there's a whole bunch of living yet to do. You know what I mean? I'm only 58, so there's still a bunch of living left to do. But I'm proud of what I've been able to do. I'm proud of what's just become. Yeah.
Well, one of my biggest hurdles that I've had to overcome of recent times is understanding that from a societal point of view, you would call me a late bloomer in life, to find abundance in life as a late bloomer.
Yeah.
And then that literally I'm only finding some form of balance at 42.
It's nice.
And I've still got a long way to go to where it is, but understanding that, the wheels fall off all the time, and that all of this other bullshit that we're fed on a daily basis is that by the time you hit your 30s, you should have your shit together. It's just absolutely bogus.
Absolutely.
And not true.
The late
I'd
bloomers.
almost call you an early bloomer, to be honest, Josh.
The late bloomers, are the ones who never grow. Those are the late bloomers. Yeah, man, it doesn't matter when you start. What matters is that you start.
Exactly.
And you have the courage to go on.
Just don't feel like enough people are saying that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. It doesn't matter when you start. What matters is that you start. Yeah. And yeah. Because we're lifelong learners anyway.
Isn't that the whole point of it?
Yeah, you're always
I
going to
feel
be a
like that's the
lifelong
point of
learner.
it. That's what I've arrived at.
They're like, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You know what you do with old dogs? You can't teach new tricks. You put them down. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And that's rubbish, because an old dog will always learn a new trick. Even if it was like, oh, let me just go over there. So
That's the easiest way to get
I'd be like, yeah, that's the easiest way.
He's always
Yeah,
learning.
man. Old dog ain't got young pop energy, but it's like got sense enough to like, oh.
He's learning new tricks.
Yeah, so.
Any other last minute questions, comments?
I want to say thanks, Mike, for doing this. From the time in which you envisioned it, you know what I mean? You don't even know 2020, like those Saturday morning sessions, they saved my life. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That was actually my church on a Saturday morning. Yeah. When I was done with you, when I was done with those sessions, all right, yeah. I don't need to clock back in for a church service for the rest of the day. I had church this morning. It was the most meaningful. I used to just look forward to it. And so even, you know, from the time you dreamed it to this now, you know, and as much as I don't come to the sessions and, you know, when you're doing a lot of the fitness and the ice baths and my heart is there. My heart is there, you know, so thank you for doing this, man.
Pleasure. The pleasure is all mine, literally. We can share it, I guess.
Yeah. I'm building a steam bath in my bath.
Are you?
Yeah. I've laid the concrete and that I'm gonna be putting up the frame. I'm building a steam bath, not a sauna, a proper steam vapor.
Do you want to quickly, you reckon you can do it quickly, under 5
So
minutes?
in
Tell the story about your fucking steam bath.
East End of London, they have a thing called steam baths. And the steam bath tradition was brought to the East End by the Russian Jews in the late 1900s. In the steam bath, they have a tradition called shmaishin or bathing. And the shmaish is made out of raffia. It's made out of raffia. So almost picture it like it's a grass skirt with a handle. You have a bucket of soap. Down, you fill the bucket of, you know, you probably have about 20, 30 bars of soap in it. You fill up the bucket with hot water to cover the soap. And then you heat the raffia brush underneath hot water. Then you stick it in the brush. You stick it in the bucket and you work it up. You work the soap into the brush, until the whole thing is just like a big soapy body. Then you lie down in the steam. Lie down, starkers, lay on your belly, nice and naked, on the bed, and you do what is called give a bath. Now, you don't beat the person with the brush. It's a matter of heat and massage. So the first thing you do is called soaping. You get the bar of soap, you get the brush, put the bar down, put the brush on top, put the soap down, the brush on top, and you soap the body in. Soap it in, the soap acts like a lubricant almost on the body. And then you lift up the brush and you spin it over the body. Because you're in a steam bath, what it does, it creates a vacuum of heat between the body and the brush. Heat, soap. Heat, soap. Heat, soap, all the way down. Put the bar soap in and then spin. Heat, down, massage. Believe me, this will change your friggin' life, all right?
And so
You will never think about the steam bath ever. It will change the way you actually think about taking a steam.
And so you would go there with, was it 6?
So you have to do it with people that you know. So I would be down the steam bath. I would be the youngest in my team. You know what I mean? All of these were old boys, taxi drivers, boxers, ne'er-do-wells, you know what I mean? People's names like Mickey Green, you know what I mean? Terry the Talker, just, you know. Love it. I swear, no word of a lie, you know what I mean? Terry the Talker, Mickey Green, you know what I mean? Billy Nix. And yeah, but they've known each other, you know, so like all of these men were like in their 70s. They've known each other and been coming to the bars since they were teenagers. Like their dad would have brought them or their older brother would have brought them. And so, yeah, there's about 15 of us. And every week, you know, did it for like 10, 15 years with that team. Every week, we just assemble Friday morning. And it was more social, you know, than everything. You know, everybody puts money in. With that means we buy the brush, we buy the soaps, buy all the things that people need. They'll bring their fruit, and you know, we'd be sitting around the table like this, and the steam bath would be in there. And then like come out, right? Who's next? All of us have to work on each other. You know what I mean? Everybody works on each other. You can't be what they call a schmeisch ponce. You know what I mean? Call it, it's a schmeisch ponce. You know what I mean? He can go last. You know what I mean? The ones who love to take a bath but not give a bath. You know what I mean? Yes, serious. You want to have a bath all the time? Yes. You know what I mean? And yeah, and honestly, it was beautiful. Anyway, I'm building a steam bath in my backyard. Building a steam.
How big is it?
It's gonna be. It's actually gonna be this shape. So it's gonna be 7 foot by about 9, 7 feet by about 12 feet. So it's gonna be like a shoebox. You know what I mean? So this way down, it's gonna be about 12 feet. This way, it's gonna be about 7 feet across. You know what I mean? I'm gonna build it like an L, so that the entrance coming in, and build it with a skillet roof. You know what I mean? So, and yeah. So I'm going to invite you all down. You know what I mean? Some of you may not want to go full starkers. Come with your budgies. You know, come with your budgie smugglers. But I mean, you're so vulnerable with each other. You know what I mean? You could trust each other anyway. You know what I mean? And the deep thing is, if you go to a steam bath, you know, no matter what day you may go there, yeah, because people kind of like they gather in their own teams. So, you know, I used to go on a Thursday. I used to go on a Tuesday, and somebody said, "No, come down and join us on a Thursday." And then somebody said, "No, come and." I went to Thursday for a while, and then said, "No, come and join our Friday team. You're gonna like them more." And it's the Friday team that I stuck with for years. Every team, it's like an unwritten, implicit obligation. That, so like you was just down there, like, "Oh, where you from, mate?" "Oh, I'm from Australia." You know what I mean? "Oh, right, you're not there." If you're sitting there watching them bathing and working as a team, everybody's obligated to say, "Want to have a bath, mate?" Seriously, everybody. Now, some people are like, "Nah," and others are like, "Yeah, all right, I'll let it go." But trust me, once those old boys put their hands on you, you know what I mean, with the brush and then the massage, because when that's finished and the next one come, they have the soap, and so somebody be on your legs, massage, somebody be on your back. Then they turn you over, no massage on the front, they're just the brush. There's limits to the vulnerability, you know? Yeah, don't massage. You can do the brush, you know? There's limits, you know? But everyone's harder. I remember there was this guy, like, you think I'm big, I swear, this guy was like 2 of me, you know?
Like what, lengthways or?
Just lengthways, size-wise, you know what I mean? Big old East End, thick neck, you know what I mean? East Ender. You know what I mean? This guy sat down, I swear, sat down, and we'd been bathing, we'd been working on the same team, and he sat down, like, "You know, you got to be a man to do this, don't you, Ed?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "No, seriously, you got to be a man to do this. You know that, don't you, Ed?" I'm like, yeah. I was going to argue with him like, "Yeah, bro, you tell me you got to be a man. Look at the size of you, man." You know what I mean? My arm's like a toothpick in your mouth. Yeah, you got to be a man. I'll never forget that, man. "You know, you got to be a man to do this, didn't you, Ed?" I'm like, yeah. You know, but yeah, when it's finished, I'll send word. Yeah, I'll send word.
So we're building a steam bath.
Building a steam bath. Trust me when I tell you, yeah.
Ice baths in summer and the
Steam bath in the winter. Listen, I went out into the garden. I went out into my garden. I think it was back in March. You know, it was still the heat of summer. And I think I went out into the garden about 6 o'clock. And in the morning, it was just cool. I was like, damn, you can bath all year round, because you can't get at 8 o'clock, the sun is up, you know what I mean? The sun is up just looking for whoever he wants to just incinerate, you know what I mean? At 6 o'clock, the sun is just still sleeping, and I was just like, man, it's nice. It wasn't cold, it was just nice and cool. I was like, man, I could get up 6 o'clock, bath between 6 and 8 o'clock, 6 and 7 o'clock. I can bath all year round, you know what I mean? Winter time, like now. But seriously, if you used to have a steam bath here, it's a game changer, especially with the ice baths. You know what I mean? It's
Reckon we could do
for
it?
Junto.
Do anything.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Send me the specs.
I'll send you. You know what I mean? Because it don't take much. All it is just a sealed room.
I feel like we could make.
Just there. Yeah.
Just here. Oh, that'd be brilliant.
I
What?
want to see how Mike explains it for the first time. So we get this brush, we get the soap.
I've got one brush that is my favorite brush, and I've got 2 unused brushes. Brand new, unused. You know what I mean?
You have to show us how it's done.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to come up and bath us all.
Funnily enough, yeah, that you say that, but you learn bathing by experiencing it. Yeah, because once you feel the brush and the way the brush works, and you're just like, oh, that feels really good. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, I mean, some people, there was this one guy, Moshe, Jewish guy. I said, oh, Ed, you give me a bath, Ed. I said, like, sure, Moshe. So he starts on his front. You know what I mean? He starts on his front. So I've got the brush, and I learned from another steam bath. So you got the brush and you just go in there, bam, heat. So I've gone in and I've like started to, put the soap in, and he's like, are you gonna stop me? And then he said, sorry, Eddie, no offense. Could you call Stevie Green for me, please? You know what I mean? Stevie Green's massive old cab driver. He said, Steve, could you show Eddie how to soak me in, please? You know what I mean? So
That needs to become part of our vocabulary.
So like, we might have to, contextualize it. So funny enough, Stevie, he got the soap, and and he said, oh yeah, Ed, this is Moshe, soap me in. And he's soaping me in, and Moshe's lying down there, and he says, Eddie, I hope you don't mind. I said, like, no, Moshe. I was taught a different way down at Atherton, because I'm at a different bath now. He said, no, I was taught a different way down at Atherton. So he's doing it, soaping it in, and then God bless Moshe. He said, all right, thanks, Steve. Give the soap and brush back to Eddie. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right. Boom. And then I never went back to doing it the other way again on everyone, because I'm like, well, of course you do it that way. Like, so yeah, I mean, you kind of learn as well by feeling it. When you feel the brush, you feel how it works, you just like, because really it's just heat. It's heat and pressure. And the brush will do it, you know what I mean? You have the thing at the watch of a certain size, and all it is heat from pressure. It's a massage and a body scrub. Heat, pressure. You know what I mean? Side of the neck.
You're excited, aren't you?
Yeah. Can you
I'm
tell?
serious. No, this ain't a special massage. This ain't no happy ending. This is
I was doing the 2 arms.
No, but honestly, yeah. That's believe me, it'll be a great experience.
Big enough.
It literally is big enough. It is big enough. Yeah. All you need to do is seal it in.
What do you seal it with? What do you line it with?
Different ways. I mean, you could use chlorine. Tile the whole. Yeah. Tile the whole walls.
Yeah.
You can tile the walls. Put like just all you're doing is you're making it into a watertight room. You know what I mean?
You get epoxy.
So whatever way, yeah. The floor,
That stuff that they do with bathrooms, the new Gyprock, the AquaCheck, or whatever it is, now, so I won't walk.
the floor is fine. You literally don't-
We're doing it. We're doing it, right?
you don't need to put nothing on the floor
Yeah,
because it's a concrete floor.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just work in where you put your drain. Yeah. You have to put your drainage out and put your taps in. You know what I mean?
What do they use? What does it use to generate the steam?
That you have to buy. It's just an electric steamer. You know what I mean?
Is that a
Electric
rock?
steam generator.
A
So
rock.
all you do is you plumb the water into the electric steam generator, and then you just plumb it into the walls, and it will just make the steam come in. So what you would have in there, you would have a bed to work on, and then just seating.
Out
You
of,
know what I
out of the ice bath into the steam room.
Listen,
for a
bro,
soaking.
listen.
For a soaping.
Out of the steam room into the ice bath.
Out of the steam, that's
what we did
that's
at-
the way around.
Cold hot
Start
therapy,
steam
mate.
bar,
That's what we did at
steam
the,
bar into the ice. You know what I mean?
Cold hot
And then back in.
Fuck, man, this place is
fuck
gonna
out
be
to the
lit.
projects. Thanks for listening to the Junto Men's podcast. Our mission is to share high quality information for regular blokes who either want to be better or who might be going through some tough stuff. We really hope you got some value out of listening today. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So if you did get some value out today, we'd love it if you left us a comment, we read them all, you shared it with a mate, or even gave us a 5-star review. We love getting that. If any of what we have spoken about today is interesting to you and you'd like to know more about what we're about and what we do, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or on our website. We'll hopefully talk to you soon. Cheers.